Religion in Dardania was deeply rooted in the natural world and reflected the daily lives and struggles of its people. The Dardanians worshipped a pantheon of deities, spirits, and natural forces that embodied their connection to the earth, sky, and ancestral heritage. Their spiritual beliefs shaped their identity and influenced every aspect of their culture, from governance to warfare. Hit subscribe and you might just unlock a secret about this channel. The origins of Dardanian religion can be traced back to prehistoric times when animism played a central role in their spiritual worldview. The Dardanians believed that every element of nature, rivers, mountains, forests, and animals, was imbued with a spirit or deity. These natural forces were both revered and feared, as they could bring prosperity or disaster, depending on how they were treated. Rituals and offerings were a way to appease these forces and ensure harmony with the environment. Smash that subscribe button like it's a piñata filled with great content. As the Dardanian tribes settled and developed more complex societies, their religious beliefs became more structured. They began to personify natural forces as deities with distinct attributes, creating a pantheon that mirrored their values and aspirations. Chief among these deities were gods of fertility, war, and protection, reflecting the Dardanians' dependence on agriculture, conflict, and communal security. Oral tradition played a key role in preserving and transmitting religious knowledge. Elders and priests were custodians of these traditions, ensuring that rituals, myths, and sacred practices were passed down through generations. The lack of written records means much of what we know about Dardanian religion comes from archaeological evidence and the accounts of neighboring civilizations. But these sources reveal a rich and vibrant spiritual heritage. The Dardanian pantheon was a diverse and dynamic collection of deities that governed every aspect of life. Central to their belief system were gods and goddesses associated with nature, fertility, and warfare, each playing a specific role in the spiritual and practical lives of the Dardanians. These deities reflected the kingdom's priorities and the challenges faced by its people. One of the most important deities in the Dardanian pantheon was a fertility goddess, often associated with the earth and agriculture. This goddess was revered as the giver of life and sustenance, and her worship was central to rituals marking the planting and harvesting seasons. Statues and carvings depicting her as a nurturing figure have been found in Dardanian settlements, underscoring her significance in their daily lives. Another prominent figure was the god of war, who symbolized strength, courage, and protection. This deity was often invoked before battles, with warriors offering sacrifices to ensure victory and safety. The god of war was also associated with the forging of weapons and tools, highlighting the link between warfare, craftsmanship, and survival in Dardanian society. The Dardanians also worshipped household deities and spirits, which were believed to protect families and ensure domestic harmony. These smaller, localized spirits were often represented by simple idols placed in homes or near hearths. Such practices reveal the intimate nature of Dardanian spirituality, where the divine was seen as an active participant in everyday life. While the Dardanian pantheon was unique, it also shared similarities with the religious systems of neighboring peoples, such as the Illyrians and Thracians. This overlap suggests a degree of cultural exchange and mutual influence, reflecting the interconnectedness of ancient Balkan societies. Sacred sites were a cornerstone of Dardanian religious practice, serving as focal points for worship, rituals, and communal gatherings. These sites ranged from natural formations like caves and mountaintops to constructed altars and temples. They provided a physical space where the Dardanians could connect with their deities and seek guidance or blessings. Mountains and hills held particular significance as sacred sites, symbolizing a bridge between the earth and the heavens. These elevated locations were often chosen for rituals dedicated to sky gods or weather deities, whose favor was crucial for agricultural success. Archaeological evidence suggests that offerings such as food, drink, and animal sacrifices were left at these sites to appease the gods and ensure their continued benevolence. Caves and springs were also revered as sacred spaces, associated with fertility and the underworld. These natural formations were believed to house spirits or serve as portals to other realms. Rituals performed at these locations often involved water, which was seen as a purifying and life-giving force. Many springs and wells in Dardania were adorned with carvings or altars, emphasizing their spiritual importance. Temples and shrines, though simpler than those of the Greeks or Romans, were integral to Dardanian worship. These structures were often built near villages or crossroads, making them accessible to the community. Temples served as the setting for seasonal festivals and communal rites, while smaller shrines were used for private prayers and offerings. The design of these sacred spaces reflected the Dardanians' practical and deeply spiritual approach to worship. Rituals and festivals were central to Dardanian religious life, providing a way for communities to honor their gods and strengthen social bonds. These events were often tied to the agricultural calendar, marking key moments such as planting, harvesting, and the changing of seasons. They were characterized by elaborate ceremonies, music, dancing, and feasting. Seasonal festivals were among the most important religious events, celebrating the cycles of nature and the blessings of the gods. The Spring Festival, for example, was a time of renewal and fertility, with rituals aimed at ensuring a bountiful harvest. Participants offered gifts to the fertility goddess, such as grains, fruits, and symbolic items, while engaging in communal dances and songs. Warrior rites were another significant aspect of Dardanian religious practice, particularly during times of conflict. Before battles, warriors would gather to invoke the god of war, performing sacrifices and pledging their loyalty. These rituals not only sought divine protection, but also fostered a sense of unity and purpose among the troops. Victory celebrations were equally elaborate, with feasts and ceremonies to thank the gods for their favor. Private rituals played an essential role in daily life, reflecting the Dardanians' belief in a personal relationship with the divine. Families would offer food or drink to household deities, seeking protection and prosperity. These intimate acts of devotion revealed the multifaceted nature of Dardanian religion, where the spiritual and the everyday were closely intertwined. The Dardanian priesthood held a significant role in society, acting as intermediaries between the mortal world and the divine. Priests and priestesses were entrusted with performing rituals, interpreting omens, and preserving sacred knowledge. Their influence extended beyond the religious sphere, as they often advised rulers and played a part in governance and diplomacy. Their status as spiritual leaders made them central figures in Dardanian life. The selection of priests was a deeply spiritual process. Many were chosen from specific families believed to have ancestral ties to the gods, ensuring continuity in sacred traditions. Training began at a young age, with initiates learning complex rituals, chants, and myths. This rigorous education ensured that priests were not only skilled in religious practices, but also well-versed in medicine, astronomy, and other sciences tied to their spiritual duties. Religious authority in Dardania was closely linked to the kingdom's stability. Priests were often consulted during times of crisis, such as droughts or wars, to interpret signs and recommend courses of action. Their role in divination, particularly through the reading of animal entrails or celestial movements, was highly respected. These interpretations were considered messages from the gods, guiding decisions that affected the entire community. Religious authority in Dardania was closely linked to the kingdom's stability. Priests were often consulted during times of crisis, such as droughts or wars, to interpret signs and recommend courses of action. Their role in divination, particularly through the reading of animal entrails or celestial movements, was highly respected. These interpretations were considered messages from the gods, guiding decisions that affected the entire community. Women in Dardanian society held prominent roles in religious practices, reflecting the importance of fertility, family, and community in their culture. Female priestesses and oracles were highly revered, serving as conduits to the divine. Their presence in religious rituals underscored the significant role of women in maintaining spiritual and social harmony. Priestesses often served deities associated with fertility, agriculture, and domestic life. You made it this far, subscribe, it takes 1 second. They presided over rituals that celebrated the cycles of nature, such as planting and harvesting festivals. These ceremonies emphasized the interconnectedness of human and natural cycles, with women embodying the life-giving force of the earth. Their leadership in these rituals was both symbolic and practical, reinforcing their vital role in society. Or, another important facet of women's spiritual contributions. These women were believed to possess the gift of prophecy, interpreting dreams and visions to reveal the will of the gods. Communities and even rulers sought their counsel during critical moments, such as before battles or major decisions. The trust placed in oracles highlights the deep respect for women's spiritual insight in Dardanian culture. In addition to formal roles, women played a key part in domestic religious practices. They maintained household altars, performed daily offerings, and passed down sacred traditions to their children. These acts of devotion ensured that spirituality remained a constant presence in the lives of Dardanian families. By fulfilling these roles, women contributed to the preservation and perpetuation of their culture's spiritual legacy. Art and symbolism were integral to Dardanian religion, serving as a means to honor the gods and convey spiritual concepts. Religious symbols adorned everything from pottery and jewelry to temple walls and altars, reflecting the deep integration of faith into daily life. These artistic expressions provided insight into the beliefs and values of the Dardanians. Animal motifs were particularly common, symbolizing traits associated with specific deities or forces of nature. The eagle, for instance, was revered as a messenger of the gods, embodying strength and divine power. Bulls and deer often appeared in rituals and art as symbols of fertility and abundance, reflecting their importance in agriculture and sustenance. These representations served as both spiritual icons and reminders of life. Sacred geometry was another prominent element in Dardanian art. Patterns such as spirals, circles, and triangles were used to represent cycles, unity, and the divine order of the universe. These designs adorned altars, ceremonial tools, and even clothing, embedding spiritual significance into everyday objects. The use of geometry demonstrated the Dardanians' sophisticated understanding of both art and spirituality. Religious rituals also inspired performative arts, such as music, dance, and storytelling. Drums, flutes, and string instruments were played during ceremonies to invoke the gods and elevate the communal spirit. Ritual dances often depicted mythological stories, with participants donning masks and costumes to embody gods, spirits, or animals. These performances not only honored the divine, but also strengthened communal bonds and preserved cultural narratives. The spiritual traditions of the Dardanians left an enduring mark on the cultural landscape of the Balkans. While much of their religious system faded with the Roman conquest and the spread of Christianity, traces of Dardanian beliefs and practices persisted in folklore, customs, and local traditions. These remnants provide a window into the spiritual life of an ancient and resilient people. One of the most lasting legacies of Dardanian religion is its influence on regional mythology. Many tales of gods, spirits, and heroes that survive in Balkan folklore can be traced back to Dardanian traditions. These stories reflect themes of resilience, harmony with nature, and the importance of community, echoing the values of the ancient kingdom. Customs such as seasonal festivals and fertility rites continued to be practiced, albeit in adapted forms. Even after the rise of Christianity, elements of Dardanian rituals were incorporated into local celebrations, blending old and new traditions. This syncretism allowed the spirit of Dardanian religion to endure, even as its formal structures disappeared. The archaeological record also preserves the legacy of Dardanian spirituality. Temples, altars, and artifacts provide a tangible connection to their religious practices, offering insights into their worldview and way of life. These discoveries continue to inspire scholars and enthusiasts, ensuring that the rich spiritual heritage of the Dardanians remains a source of fascination and admiration.